Michael from oneskyastrology, and this video is going to take a look at the new moon in Capricorn on the 4th of February. That's the constellation of Capricorn, so you may have heard that this new moon is happening in Aquarius, but that is tropical astrology. This video is going to take a look at it from the point of view of True Sidereal Astrology, or astrology using the actual heavens. So there's a couple differences between Capricorn and Aquarius that are pretty interesting. One of them is that Capricorn is much more impersonal and grounded as opposed to humanitarian and airy Aquarius. Capricorn is cardinal earth, and that's really rich for new beginnings in the real world. So we're going to look at the new beginnings that this new moon is going to represent. A new moon chart is like a natal chart for the whole lunar cycle. So by looking at this, we're going to have a chance to see maybe the energy that the next month or 30 days will portend. The new moon is a great time to set intentions, to rest, to turn inward, and to kind of collect our energies. It will build through the waxing phase, and we'll take a look at some of the overtones that will define maybe a little of that work, and it'll culminate in a full moon, and that'll be kind of a chance to reap the harvest of this cycle, a chance to take action, a chance to manifest our dreams or intentions. So the new moon, time to set the intentions. Waxing phase up to the full moon, time to build and grow and harvest the intentions. Then we'll step back through the waning phase. Maybe reflect, maybe integrate, maybe take a look at what worked and what didn't through that growth cycle, and begin to clear some space, starting with the waning quarter moon. Begin to clear some space for that next full moon. I'm going to do a little bit different kind of video this time. I usually look at all four of those quarters and all four of those cycles. This time I'm just going to look at the new moon. Just going to take a look at that chart. And this is it. So let's jump right in. I want to mention that if you're looking at this in your own astrology program, you may notice different relationships at play here. But I'm using only the very close relationships, so you'll see even the conjunctions only go out to 5 degrees, and everything else is looking at 0-degree relationships, 1-degree relationships, and there are a couple 2-degree relationships, especially with Jupiter. So as I mentioned, the sun and moon are here in the constellation of Capricorn, and Capricorn is a really grounded influence, a really pragmatic, a really impersonal, pragmatic, grounded influence that's concerned with getting things done in the real world, with moving things forward in a growth, in a building, in a development kind of way, and that tends to be very, very practical. That energy is going to color this whole cycle. This new moon in Capricorn is going to lend that overtone to the next 30 days. So let's take a look at some of the other things that are happening here. All the planets are direct. We have absolutely no planets retrograde. This retrograde for the north node of the moon is standard. The lunar nodes move in retrograde fashion as a matter of course. One exciting thing that just happened is that Venus just passed the galactic center here, and that's going to be a nice reset to those energies, which is interesting because Venus is making a very close semi-square to the sun and moon. So there is going to be that connection with Venus in this cycle. Venus is also trine up to Uranus. So we may see some new, we may see some exciting, we may see some innovative feelings with Venus just passing the galactic center in Sagittarius, expansive, exploratory Sagittarius. Venus trine up to Uranus could mean that it's a great time to take account of anything we might want to change, maybe want to look at. Venus is square up to Chiron here, and that is just by 1.5 degrees. So we're going to see that square up to Chiron and this semi-square to the Sun and Moon. We have Chiron here in Pisces for some emotional or spiritual healing, and we have Venus making her fresh start in Sag, just past the GC. Again, for those that aren't familiar with this form of astrology, we're using the actual skies. We're using the real heavens. These are the actual size and location of the constellations. This definitely differs from mainstream astrology. You'll want to check it out. It's called True Sidereal Astrology. And the galactic center is the massive, supermassive black hole that the galaxy rotates around and orbits around our sun, makes a 25,000 year orbit, more or less, around this black hole. It's about 4 million times the force of the sun. It's a very powerful point, and as planets pass it, they tend to it's kind of like a new year for them, like a new beginning, like a fresh start, a reset of sorts. Other things that are happening are some interesting symmetry with semi-sextiles and sextiles. So we have Neptune here in Aquarius, which is actually one of the happiest positions for Neptune. And we have Saturn here in Sagittarius. So these two are making a sextile to each other and also a semi-sextile to the new moon. And this is some interesting symmetry. We've got Venus and Chiron making a square and semi-squares, and we've got Saturn and Neptune making a sextile and semi-sextiles. And this kind of symmetry is nice. Neptune and Saturn are both malefics, if you ask me. Opinions differ about Neptune. It is generous and it is spiritual, but it has a very confusing, very cloudy quality. And what this alignment is asking for, a great way to set our intentions going into this lunar cycle would be to balance the practical with the mystical, to balance Saturn's pragmatic, disciplined, measured, patient approach to building and to developing things in the actual, tangible, felt real world, with Neptune's dreamy, insightful, mystical, spiritual, and transcendental influence. Maybe to balance what we do and what we build with what we know deep in our bones, maybe in a way that transcends or defies logic. We do have a couple other interesting things, which is that sextile up to this new moon is Jupiter in Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus is a sign, a constellation of rebirth, of empowerment, of going into the underworld to emerge like a phoenix out of its ashes. Jupiter in a few months, maybe. I don't know the time on this, but I'm going to guess that it's about 8 or 9 months, is going to pass the galactic center just like Venus did this last lunar cycle. And Jupiter is always good luck, always a blessing of faith and hope, optimism, expanse to anything it touches in sextile. So this new moon is going to receive the grace of that alignment. And we do have Mars squaring up to Pluto right here. And Mars coming into conjunction, although it's not a close conjunction, with Aquarius in Pisces. I think with Neptune being exalted in Aquarius and Mars and Uranus and together in Pisces and square up to Pluto, there may be some agitation, there may be some like really deep drive to maybe progress, to expand spiritually, maybe to bring a sense, a quality of transformation with Pluto square up to Mars. And it's also making a weak square up to Uranus that's lasted and been that way through the entire last lunar cycle. And Pluto-Uranus square is really indicative of shaking things up. So that Mars-Uranus conjunction is going to give that a little bit of force, a little bit of power, and that Pluto is going to lend depth and intensity to this process these energies, which are likely going to be around a drive to change, to innovate, to change structures. And that Uranus trine up to Venus is going to bring maybe our relationships or values, maybe for some of us finances into the frame, looking at that restructuring process. We do have Mercury also in Capricorn, conjoined up to the Sun and Moon, and that's going to bring more of the gravity, more of the severity, more of the discipline and patience of Capricorn to bear on the way we think and communicate. And that Mercury Sun-Moon conjunction is taking place in this constellation that since the 21st century BC has been known as the Goat. This is always a bit of a rambunctious, maybe a challenging influence for a lot of people who have trouble with discipline, with severity, with patience. Some people will say that it's, maybe a difficult sign. I personally think it's a sign that is demanding, and it's always there to teach us something that's very important about patience, about discipline, about timing, and about building, doing. So those are the energies I would expect this next 30 days to be colored with, along with that Saturn-Neptune energy, balancing the pragmatic with the mystical, balancing the practical with transcendental, with Chiron and Venus in square and semi-square to the new moon. We may see a time of healing. We may see the opportunity to do some new things with relationships, maybe our approach to relationships, maybe our philosophy around relationships, maybe just a way of looking at things and being in relationship. That's a fresh start, a little different, a nice reset to those whole energies throughout this cycle. And that about wraps this up. That's the new moon, February 4th in constellation Capricorn. I do want to encourage everybody to, around this time, go into an inward reflective space to, with meditation or prayer or guided visualization, to set intentions and to see what happens throughout the cycle I described, the building through the waxing phase, the fullness, the harvest, the manifestation of those intentions. It's like if you're sailing, it's like aligning with the wind. It's like, whew, you really start to move, you start to take off. It's very magical. So if you're watching this video and you're still with me, check it out. Set some intentions. Plant a seed in your heart or in the heart of reality, whatever that means to you. Plant a seed. Send that energy of intention out, or bring it in, however you relate to the world, however your magic works. And see what happens as you move through this lunar cycle in a conscious way, watching the energies as they wax and achieve their fullness and wane. This is the way the ancients lived, and I encourage you to explore that. Try that on for yourself. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.